Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
A slippery situation. Even this gritter felt the force of an Arctic blast, which brought major disruption to our region's roads and to its runways.
Yes, I'm here at Leeds Bradford Airport where flights are back on this evening, but after 2 days of disruption, delays continue. I'll have the latest shortly.
We'll bring you the impact of the cold snap across the region, and of course Kerry will be here to give us that all-important forecast of what's still to come.
Also coming up on calendar before 6:30. A Leeds man goes on trial accused of dragging a teenager from a taxi and murdering him with a sword, then fleeing the country.
Give us what's ours. We speak to the former miners who say they're being denied major pension payments.
It's anger. How they've taken money that's rightfully our money. It's not taxpayers' money, and we need it back.
And a winter chill wasn't going to stop the traditional game of Haxey Hood. They've been playing it here for 700 years.
But we start with a day of disruption that saw hundreds of schools close, flights brought to a standstill, and drivers forced to abandon their vehicles after a deluge of snow.
At its peak, the bad weather saw almost 30,000 Yorkshire homes without power, although thankfully most of those have now been reconnected.
Householders in the worst hit areas have been urged of what to do to help older people as charities ferried winter aid and food to those left isolated by the cold snap. Jonathan Brown has the story.
When those clearing the way for others get stuck themselves, you know it's been a challenging day. This gritter stranded in North Derbyshire after snow covered our region overnight. The big freeze brought sights to savour and congestion to forget. The melting ice flooded the main link road to the M1 in Chesterfield, submerged the line at Rotherham Station and grounded flights at Leeds Bradford Airport. In Morley, a marooned bus was freed by youths, while scores of schools shut down for the day. A surprise extension to the winter break. Good news for some.
School is closed, yep, hopefully just for today, but we'll see. Ours were like we'd won the World Cup.
This is way much fun. Yeah. And at school, they don't usually let you have snowball fights either.
The freezing temperatures delivered snow to homes, but for many, took away electricity. Northern Power Grid said more than 27,000 customers in Yorkshire experienced outages over recent days. All but 100 are back up and running. Volunteers in South Leeds delivered winter warmth packs and hot food to those isolated by the cold.
Hello Denise, how are you?
Like 82-year-old Denise.
I haven't been out for a couple of days, but I have got food in. You can't get out, can you? And if people haven't got the money to keep warm, that's a bit difficult as well.
Middleton Elderly Aid Social Centre still thawing this morning.
How are you managing with this weather?
Meaning phone checks for some of its 1,200 members as Lunch Club was cancelled.
Some people will be choosing either food or heating, which is a concern. Even if it's a neighbour you need to ask for help, just ask for the help. It's a lot easier than suffering in silence. And then there is other neighbourhood network schemes and other organisations that they may be able to contact.
In the high grounds of North Yorkshire, heavy-duty snow brought heavy-duty clearance. But that didn't stop some from braving the elements for their regular morning wild swim at Janet's Foss. While for others it was an ice blast from the past, Yorkshire Wildlife Park's polar bears and Siberian tigers at ease in the snow, the zebras far from the African plains, not so much.
I think the animals are a bit like your own pets at home. When there's a bit of snow on the ground, they come out and it's all exciting and it's different and they like to play in it. And, you know, our big animals are absolutely no different whatsoever.
But as the clear-up continued, some of those seeking a swift escape to sunnier climes via Leeds Bradford Airport did get their wish this afternoon, as the cold temperatures here look likely to stay put. Jonathan Brown, ITV News.
It's only been an interesting couple of days, hasn't it, weather-wise? Well, we can cross now to Leeds Bradford Airport, where our reporter Amelia Beckett is live for us tonight. And Amelia, as we just saw there, flights have now resumed, but there's still been a lot of disruption there today, hasn't there?
Yeah, that's right. As you heard in Johnny's report, that other further dumping of snow last night meant flights here were diverted, with snowplows and gritters working through the night to clear the runway. Today, it did reopen, but delays and cancellations have continued. We know of at least 1 or 2 flights which have had to be postponed until tomorrow. And because things are still working to get back on track, there are delays to both arrivals and departures here. Now, we do think that the worst of the weather has passed, but as temperatures drop again this evening, we have seen gritters on the runway again tonight. And a knock-on of all of this is that crews and aeroplanes have ended up landing at other airports. So until they can get back to where they were supposed to be, full service hasn't yet resumed. And the advice from Leeds Bradford Airport to passengers is to still check before you travel. Elsewhere, issues are expected when the snow melts tomorrow, and that can cause flooding on both roads and railways. So again, if things look clear, the advice still is to check before you travel.
Yes, indeed. So lots of disruption to travel, but we've also seen hundreds of school closures today, Amelia, haven't we? So what's the latest there?
Yes, that's right. In fact, we think that Bradford was the worst affected, with around 170 school closures there today. Kirklees not far behind on 130, whereas across Leeds and Wakefield, we think around 100 schools have been closed. Of course, today was supposed to be the first day back after the Christmas holidays, so I'm sure those schools will be hoping to be able to reopen tomorrow. But again, the advice to everybody is to check your local council website first thing in the morning, if, of course, you haven't heard already.
Amelia Beckett live for us at Leeds Bradford Airport. Thank you.
Well, Kerry is with us now, and Kerry, you did warn us this was coming. You were right, weren't you?
Oh yeah, it was a big list on Friday of things that could happen, and most of them did, unfortunately. And yes, like we've just seen in those 2 reports, it wasn't just the mountaintops that got the white out over the last 36 to 48 hours or so. Even at lower levels, a slushy mixture, really icy. I mean, there's 7 little snowmen there in the background, but it's just been this big contrast of the snow and what's going to melt and then what's going to freeze over again as we head through into tonight. So these are our stats. These are our Met Office stats. So over the Pennines, Bingley got up to 17 centimetres. That's enough, you'd probably say. But on top of that, we had gusts of 42 miles an hour. So where we don't, of course, have Met Office data sites, a lot more snow than that. And on top of that, our rainfall stats, 50 millimetres. If you think that 1 centimetre of snow equals 1 millimetre of rainfall, so any kind of melt adds on top of that. So you, in addition, get the flooding. So this is what happened. Let's rewind to Saturday at 9 o'clock, and it just started coming into the southwest of our region, into the cold air, that area of rain. It turned to snow across many areas at first on Saturday night into Sunday morning, but it basically just parked over the Pennines. So for parts of North Yorkshire, especially the Dales, where they've had a lot of drifting, and down that Pennine spine, even this morning, as the cold air digged back down in from the north, we had that snowfall first thing that caused obviously those difficult conditions. And this was at around 6 o'clock this morning, a massive contrast in temperatures, and unfortunately it's that colder air with that northwesterly airflow that's created that very cold day today, and it will be certainly a cold night overnight tonight.
Becoming less hazardous though in the coming days?
Yeah, in terms of the rain, that's cleared out to the North Sea now. There will be a few wintry showers over the Pennines, but the emphasis is on the cold conditions by day and by night. We're looking at over a week's worth of cold weather across not just our patch but the whole of the UK. And so ice, even though we don't have an exact Met Office weather warning tonight, anything wet and untreated will freeze overnight tonight.
OK, Kerry, we shall continue to keep an eye on it, and we'll have your forecast.
Of course, the full forecast a little later on.
Thank you very much indeed. You're watching Monday night's calendar with Ian White and Sally Simpson. Still to come before 6:30. Leeds United keeper Ilan Meslier hands Hull a late Christmas present as the Whites give up a 2-goal lead to their East Yorkshire rivals. We'll have that and the rest of the weekend sport.
And from home Firth to Hollywood, how this West Yorkshire actress joined the likes of Demi Moore, winning a top award at this year's Golden Globes. A teenager was dragged from a taxi and stabbed to death in a Leeds street with what's been described as a sword. That's what a court has heard today.
18-year-old Jamie Meir died after what prosecutors called a barbaric assault in Armley in March 2023. The 4 people suspected of his killing then fled the country.
Today, one of the men went on trial after denying murder. Michael Billington's been following the case at Leeds Crown Court.
Jamie Meir had recently learned he was about to become a father when he was stabbed to death in broad daylight in Armley in Leeds in March 2023. He'd been travelling in the back of a taxi with a 16-year-old boy when it was stopped by another car. Court heard the prosecution today claim that 23-year-old Rene Wilkes climbed out of that car, taking a large 3 to 4 foot sword out of a sheath and opened the taxi door, jabbing one of the passengers with it. One of them was heard crying, "Don't stab me, don't stab me." It's claimed 2 more men then dragged the teenagers out of the cab, stabbing, kicking and punching the pair in what the prosecution barrister called a ferocious, sustained, barbaric and pitiless attack on those 2 men who lay prone on the ground. Both Jamie and the 16-year-old boy were taken to hospital, where Jamie died of his injuries. In the days after the attack, the 4 men fled first to Liverpool, where they were caught on CCTV, and then to the Republic of Ireland, where they were arrested by the Garda for an alleged petty theft. Unaware of the stabbing in Leeds, the 4 men were then released by authorities. From there, they fled further afield, the court was told today. Rene Wilkes was finally arrested at Leeds Bradford Airport on his return from Turkey just over a year later. He denies murder, attempted murder, and 2 counts of possessing a bladed article. The 3 other men suspected of killing Jamie Meir still haven't been caught to this day. Michael Billington, ITV News in Leeds.
And of course, that trial is continuing. Now, hundreds of former pit workers in our region are demanding what's rightfully theirs after the government boosted some miners' pension payments, but not others.
Yes, it came after the Treasury handed back a surplus which had built up on one pension scheme but left another one untouched. Campaigners say it's left some missing out on a 30% increase.
Well, they're calling it an injustice and say they want equal treatment for all. Peter Byrne has their story.
Between them, Martin Slater and Dave Drury clocked up around 30 years in the coal industry. Their priority now, a comfortable retirement. Accompanied by their local MP, they've come to the site of the former Sherwood Colliery in Mansfield Woodhouse in Nottinghamshire to highlight what they say is an injustice.
The more you look into it, it's anger. How they've taken money that's rightfully our money. It's not taxpayers' money, and we need it back.
Back in 1994, the government decided to guarantee mine workers' pensions. It said it would put some pension fund profits aside for the future. Earlier this year, the new Labour government promised to return that surplus. £1.5 billion would be shared out among members of one pension scheme. But another scheme, the one Martin and Dave belong to, missed out altogether. It's thought in Mansfield alone there are around 1,300 former miners and their families who've been left out of pocket.
We are losing members on a daily basis, if you like, and it's their money in the scheme. We want to see an uplift in their pensions, and time is of the essence for people who are advancing in years.
You there?
Yeah,
in your training days.
That's me as a young training officer.
Yeah.
At the pub he now runs in Market Warsop, Dave Drury still has fond memories of his days at Welbeck Colliery. What he wants now, he says, is a fair deal for all.
Are you the forgotten few? Is that how you see yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened, but whether it's just some people in government didn't realise, or whether it was, I can't see why it had been done on purpose. I think it's just an oversight.
An oversight which campaigners say is denying them an increase in their pension of as much as 30%. Peter Byrne, ITV News, Mansfield Woodhouse.
Well, the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero told us there are different pension schemes which operate in different ways. A minister has met the pension trustees and will be speaking to the Treasury about their proposals.
Some showbiz news now, and a West Yorkshire actress has picked up one of the industry's most prestigious awards at a glitzy Hollywood ceremony.
Jessica Gunning for Baby Reindeer.
Jessica Gunning, who's from Home Firth, last night won Best Supporting Actress at the Golden Globes in Beverly Hills for her part as Martha, a troubled fantasist in the controversial Netflix series Baby Reindeer. It was the 38-year-old's first Golden Globe win after securing an Emmy for the same role.
Well done to Jessica. And the Golden Globes feature in tonight's ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the evening news, fresh snow and ice warnings as parts of Britain battle the big freeze. There's flooding and disruption on the rail and roads as the winter weather forces hundreds of schools to close. The Prime Minister fights back over Elon Musk's incendiary online posts. Sir Keir Starmer's fury over what he calls the lies and misinformation. And
this is the first time I've ever won anything.
After more than 4 decades in the industry, Demi Moore finally bags an acting gong. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Thanks, Mary. Now, it's the time of year we pledge to join a gym or get our running shoes on. I don't think I'll be doing that. But there's a warning that serious knee injuries are on the rise.
Yes, experts say that things like anterior cruciate ligament or ACL tears are up by almost a third over the last 2 decades, and the situation is getting worse.
One of the things being blamed is children spending more time on screens and less playing outside, as Chloe Oliver has been finding out.
We're going to do a movement to help warm up that's really good for strengthening our knees and helping to prevent injury in that area. We're going to squat.
When runners at this athletics club prepare to pound the pavements, their focus is often on speed and agility. But with knee injuries increasing by 29% in the last 20 years, according to the British Medical Journal, it's no longer enough to just lace up your shoes and go. Warming up properly has become a crucial step.
This year I had a bursitis injury that prevented me from doing a marathon that I'd been training for, and it was very much sort of, overuse of the knee without the strength training.
There are a lot of people, they don't realise that if they've got an old pair of trainers that they just play around in or whatever, it can actually cause you more issues.
I'm relatively new to running, probably only running about a year or so, and I definitely confide in my club mates. They're way more informed than me about knee injuries.
Kieran Doyle from Rotherham broke his knee and tore his ACL playing Sunday League football. The serious knee injury meant an abrupt end to the sport he loved and his work as a groundkeeper.
The mental side of it has been a struggle, as well as the finance side, but I've kind of dealt with the finance side better than what I thought I would. But the mental side, like trying to do exercises to get movement back in your knee and everything like that, it's just been a struggle, because you think you're getting somewhere one day and then the day after you feel like you're 10 days back, so you don't feel like you've progressed.
Kieran isn't alone. It's been deemed a sporting epidemic. The Journal of Science and Medicine says the number of ACL injuries will more than double by 2030.
And then slowly going back down again.
Although it can't be entirely prevented, physiotherapists like Lindy say the risk can be reduced with strengthening and education.
So keeping your knees strong, keeping the quads, the muscle at the front strong, and the hamstring, the muscle at the back, that will protect the knee. But making sure that you're doing it through the whole range of movement. Because we sit in chairs a lot of the time, often we're just using our knee through half the range of movement, so it gets to 90 degrees when you're sitting, but you don't go down into that full squat.
Nev Davies is one of the only surgeons in the country specialising in knee issues. He's concerned by the huge increase in knee injuries, particularly in children.
Week on week, I'm seeing young people as young as 10, 11, 12 now coming through with ACL injuries, and it's devastating for them, for their families. My generation, I remember being out most of the day as a youngster, running around, climbing trees, balancing on logs. Kids of today just don't do that. They're a lot more sedentary lifestyle. Obviously, screens and social media has changed the environment of how our kids, interact with each other. That lack of natural strength and conditioning is a definite factor as well.
Nev has set up the sports injury prevention charity Power Up to Play.
Take your right arm.
He wants to make warm-ups a mandatory part of sports clubs for children and adults, using simple steps to stop knee injuries in their tracks. Chloe Oliver, ITV News.
Interesting. That story's got everybody talking in the studio. Everyone's doing this.
My knee, We've all got them.
Anyway, that takes us nicely to the sport.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
And Chris joins us in the studio. Well, thankfully, Chris, the weather didn't impact the weekend's fixtures too badly.
No, we're quite lucky actually, Sally. Just one of our Football League games fell foul to the elements yesterday. That was Chesterfields against Gillingham. No snow by Saturday afternoon, but there was a flurry of goals as Leeds threw away a 3-1 lead at Hull. Now, after falling behind, the Whites equalised just after half-time, I should say. At first, Leeds' goal for Japan international Ao Tanaka, some strike that. And after further goals from Dan James and then Joel Peru, Leeds appeared to be in complete control. But 10 minutes from time, goalkeeper Ilham Melier dropped the ball at the feet of João Pedro to half Hull's deficit, and then with a minute of normal time remaining, Leeds failed to clear a corner and Abu Kamara volleyed in his second of the afternoon. So Leeds dropping points, and Sheffield United took full advantage to move to within a point of the Whites at the top of the Championship table. Gus Hamer got the Blades first at Watford, and after the hosts had equalised, Andre Brooks curled in the winner. Decent celebration there too. Sheffield Wednesday would have been just a point off the playoff spots with a victory over Millwall, and that looked likely after Jan Valery put them ahead early on, but after Ugo Ake Ugbo blazed over a penalty, Wednesday conceded twice to trail 2-1. But just 5 minutes from time, Josh Windass, who's been linked with a move to Brazilian side Santos, nodded into the path of Gabriel Otagbeyo to score his first senior goal and rescue a point for the Owls. Now dropping into League One, and how about this for a debut? Dutchman Ruben Roosken came on as the second half sub for Huddersfield, and within 9 minutes was sent off as the Terriers drew 0-0 with Rotherham. Barnsley maintained their impressive recent form with a fourth straight win. John Russell put them ahead at home to Crawley before first Max Watters and then Davis Keeler-Dunn completed a 3-0 win over Crawley. And Mansfield too have recently found their groove again. A fourth win in 5 was secured thanks to goals from Lee Gregory and Will Evans in a 2-1 victory at Stockport. In League Two, Bradford City showed they can still score goals without their talismanic striker Andy Cook, who's injured. Goals from Lewis Richards and Richie Smallwood, a penalty, put the Bantams 2 up before Grimsby pulled a goal back, but the points were sealed thanks to Alex Patterson's solo effort. A run of 7 games without a win had seen Harrogate plummet down the table, but blessed relief came in the form of goals from Jack Muldoon and Joss Marsh in a 2-0 win at Barrow. But there was disappointment for Doncaster, who were already 2-0 down to Port Vale by the time James Sterry struck this beauty 6 minutes from time. It finished 2-1. And just finally from me, the Sheffield Steelers' defence of their Elite League title is back on track after another weekend double. After beating Championship rivals Belfast on their own ice on Friday, the Steelers returned to the Sheffield Arena the following day to beat the Guildford Flames 4-1. That means it's now 5 wins on the bounce for the Steelers, who are third in the Elite League standings. And that's all your wintry sport from me for today.
That was plenty there, Chris. Thank you very much
Enough,
indeed.
was it?
No,
Enough
not.
Is that what you're saying?
Enough, but plenty. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
You worked hard on it, didn't
Thanks.
you? Thank
Just
you.
the right amount. Finally, when it comes to festive traditions, 12th night is usually the time to pack away the baubles and tinsel as Christmas is finally over. But in one village in our region, there's something altogether different.
We are gathered here today to play the ancient game of Haxey Hood.
Ah yes, the Haxey Hood. Where do we begin? It goes back to the 14th century, and it's a game where a large scrum pushes a leather tube or the hood to one of the pubs in the town, where it remains until the following year. The raucous event is based on the ancient tale of Lady de Mowbray, whose silk hood was blown away by the wind. We'll let the fool take up the story.
And one of the farm workers caught it, but he was too shy to give her it back. So the other 12 that were in there was 13 in the field at the time. The other 12 had a little bit of a scuffle, and the stronger one gave her it back, and she enjoyed it that much. She asked them to come back and do it again the following year, and she granted them the land to do it on. So that's pretty much how it all started.
I believe him. You couldn't make that up, could you? It's got to be true.
You fancy a go?
I'll pass, thanks. I wouldn't mind the bit of the pub at the end, but that scrum doesn't look like
Oh
my,
yeah, that sounds
my
about
style.
right, doesn't it? Yeah, because you did a bit of wild swimming, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I was there yesterday. The weather didn't put me off.
Can't believe it. It's so cold.
I bet it's so invigorating. Don't knock it until you've tried it, is my advice.
Try anything once, twice if I like it.
And it's going to stay cold, as Kerry can now tell us.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. Yes, a little bit of snow melt, but also ice reforming on surfaces overnight tonight. It was a very wintry start across many parts of the region this morning, particularly in the west. But we have seen that cloud starting to break and some sunshine coming through, but still bitterly cold. So as we head into the next few days and nights, it stays bitterly cold. Some wintry showers most likely over the hills, but the biggest problem that's more widespread will be the hard frosts by night. So this was the story so far today. That rain pushing its way out into the North Sea now. The clearer skies starting to develop from the northwest, but also along that northwesterly flow, a few wintry showers clipping the Pennines as we head into this evening. For most of us tonight, it will be dry with clear spells coming and going, a pretty widespread frost, and certainly where we've got any snow cover, the temperature's really plummeting, maybe even some low cloud over the hills as we head towards dawn. So it will be a chilly start, not quite as wintry as it has been the past couple of mornings. 8:22 and 4:03 are your sun times. So very cold, frosty, potentially icy on untreated surfaces tomorrow. From mid-morning into the afternoon, higher risk of getting some wintry showers over the hills, but many places will get the sunny spells, still those blustery winds and still a fairly significant wind chill in exposure to that westerly, feeling more like -2 or -3. But the winds will become lighter as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. Yes, some very hard frosts by night, but by day, some sunshine, particularly the further north you are. And all this, don't let it scare you, it's staying further south. So we stay bitterly cold, widespread frost, but lighter winds and some sunshine in the mix too.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Now, some people don't like the weather we've been having. Some people love the weather we've been having. Cheer us up, Kerry.
Oh, they do, yeah. Some sunshine to look forward to. And anyone who wanted the snow and played in the snow, well, we got it, didn't we, at least for a time. This is Boomer from the Dogs Trust in Leeds. He's a 1-year-old terrier. He needs a new home. So cute. This is Boris and Stanley. I'm not sure which way they are round, but definitely one of them is winning that snowball there. Absolutely cute. Gorgeous in Denby Dale. Big thank you to Paula. This was first thing this morning. Absolutely beautiful. And this is Hillsborough Park. Got to keep ourselves well fed, and well watered, and very cosy and warm.
Good advice. Stay cosy and warm. That's it from us. We'll see you again tomorrow at 6.
Thanks for watching. Good day.
Take care.